Gospel according to Luke. In the 24th chapter. On the first day of the week, at early dawn, the women came to the tomb, taking the spices that they had prepared. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but when they went in, they did not find the body. While they were perplexed about this, suddenly 2 men in dazzling clothes stood beside them. The women were terrified, bowed their faces to the ground, but the men said, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, but has risen. Remember how he told you while he was still in Galilee, that the Son of Man must be handed over to sinners and be crucified, and on the third day rise again?" Then they remembered his words, and returning from the tomb, told all of this to the 11 and to all the rest. Now it was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women with them who told this to the apostles. But these words seemed to them an idle tale. They didn't believe them. But Peter got up, ran to the tomb. Stooping, looking in, he saw the linen cloths by themselves. Then he went home, amazed at what had happened. The gospel of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
You may be seated. So this last week, I went to a comedy stand-up show where a friend was performing stand-up comedy, again for the first time since when he was in a car accident. For the first time since when a car accident had devastated his back a year ago. Anyways, I laughed and thought, what if I did a comedy routine for Easter Sunday? So here goes. Just joking. All right, that's my first joke, right? No one's laughing? Oh, okay. Anyways, the funniest thing that came to my mind is a bunch of nonsense. So I'm going to share it with you, all right? Because it kept making me smile. And it was this question. What is funnier than a funny Easter bunny? I don't know. What's funnier than a funny Easter bunny? A funnier funny Easter bunny. Come on. Right? I see some smiles back there, and everyone else is going, what in the world does that mean? I sat there for a good 15 minutes just chuckling to myself, thinking how absurd and how funny it was. And then I thought, I better not tell that on Easter Sunday, right? Right. It made no sense, but it just kept making me laugh. But I want to get back to that comedy show where my friend was performing comedy again for the first time since a car accident devastated his back a year ago. And that's why. Because it was again for the first time since when? It was again for the first time since when? Since the crash. Since the accident. Since getting hurt with physical limitations. But slowly he rose up again as a stand-up comic. So he could laugh out loud again, healing the hurt, the harm, the pain, and even the anger. To serve it up, remixed, recontextualized, resurrected moments with irony and wit and good timing. Now, being a comic isn't my friend's day job, and he kept his day job. But being a comic isn't my day job either, as well as you've noticed. So I want to get a bit more serious here. With this idea of resurrection, of rising up again, of doing it again when we've been hurt, when we've lost our abilities, our physical abilities, when we've been seriously injured, when we've fallen, of getting up again, rising again, and even of this eternal hope that rises within us when we have said death's goodbyes to people that we love. And I know many of us in this room have had to say those goodbyes this last year. And it's pained many of us deeply, hurtfully. And it's been hard to rise up again when we've had to say goodbye to our loved ones. So to go deeper in listening and looking for hope during troubling times, I'm going to share from the Easter sermon from our Southwest California Lutheran Bishop Guy Irwin, who wrote this week saying, in the cycle of the church's life, the seasons of Lent, of Holy Week, and of Easter stand out as a time of reassessment, recommitment, and renewal. And it is no accident that this season also corresponds, at least in this hemisphere, with spring, as the earth wakes up to the new season of life. Now, that transformation is not as dramatic for us in Southern California as it is in some places, but even here we feel it. We feel it in the atmosphere and in the blooming of seasonal plants and trees. This year's super bloom of California poppies and other wildflowers, coming on the heels of a season of terrible fires, followed by torrential rains, was a herald of fresh beauty and a sign of new life. And in the cycle of our community's life, too, we experience times of loss, of healing, and of renewal. For some in our Southwest California Synod family, the borderline shooting last November in Thousand Oaks remains a source of deep personal grief. For others, the murder of Nipsey Hussle in South LA is still an open wound, a sharp pain for a people often victimized by poverty and prejudice. Both of these tragedies represent different aspects of our national tendency towards violence. Remember, Jesus was on the cross. Both are examples of the abuse of firearms we deplore. And these crimes call out to us to link arms, to show solidarity with each other in our struggles, hoping that these deaths are not in vain, so that we might learn from them how to better care for one another. We live fragile lives. We are dependent on the earth and on the society in which we live for sustenance and safety. And sometimes traumatic human and natural events make us even more conscious of how much we depend on realities outside our own hearts and minds. The great drama of the story of Holy Week draws us into that same truth, using the story of Jesus as its center. This last week, we've heard triumph and joy on Palm Sunday, love and betrayal on Maundy Thursday, injustice, grief, and loss on Good Friday, and finally, Easter. Easter's empty tomb draws us out through mystification to radiant joy as the reality of Christ's resurrection is played out before us again. Now, words can tickle our spirits with laughter and silliness, like a funny Easter bunny. Just try and say it. And and prove to me that you can't smile when you say it. Funnier, funny Easter bunny. Okay, I see some of you smiling. But the gospel today points us to Jesus' words, to remember Jesus' words when we need that help in our lives to overcome an obstacle, when we've fallen down and we need to get up and we need to rise again. We remember the words of Jesus to help strengthen us, to help us get up again. Now, to remember those words, I guess you could use a photographic memory. How many of you have those? Oh, Peter, maybe. Or you can use the Bible, right? If we want to remember what Jesus has said, we got it right here. Let me turn it right side up. We got it right here. To strengthen us, to help us, to remind us, to focus on the love, on the renewal, on the rising again, even when we've been hurt, even when we have been cut down, even when it was an intentional act that has hurt us, we find through Jesus Christ the strength to rise again. Remember how he told you? Remember how Jesus told you? Then they remembered his words. And the words of Jesus are there when our spirits need courage in the midst of loss and love and hope. And with his own life, Jesus demonstrated rising up again for the first time since when it happened. Rising up again. Rising our moods, raising our spirits, and rising up this morning. Resurrected with living words. Rise up with God, now and forever. Rise up. No, please rise. We're going to sing our hymn of the day now. Please rise. Amen. Amen.